Hello there and welcome to the August 2025 edition of the Manitowoc Ice Monthly Spotlight. My name is Jason MacDonald, Technical Service Trainer here at Manitowoc Ice. What we're going to be talking about this month is the NEO with onboard filtration service limit number 1. Service limit number 1, we'll talk about it, we'll tell you how to troubleshoot it, and some common causes and things to look at. Let's go ahead and get to our presentation. As we do every Spotlight, we're going to have a quiz at the end here. There'll be a link in the comments section on YouTube, and there'll also be a QR code that you can scan to take a mobile-friendly or computer-friendly quiz. It's a short quiz. We're going to ask for a few bits of information, things like who you are, your email address. That one's going to be key. We're going to need to know that, so when you do take that quiz, next month when we post the next Spotlight, we're going to take a drawing for a winner. We'll get more into those details later on, but you do need to click submit, you do need to answer the questions and give us that information we're looking for, or we're going to have no way to contact you. Do want to talk about our Level 3 Factory School. This is held in Manitowoc, Wisconsin at the Tom Decker Memorial Training Center in the Manitowoc Ice Center of Excellence. There's a QR code and a link right there on the screen where you could scan that QR code. It's going to take you straight to the registration form. On the screen, we also have the dates that we're doing the schools. Keep in mind that last date on the screen is for Manitowoc Ice distributor personnel only, so please don't try to sign up for that one unless you are a Manitowoc Ice distributor person. But we do these about once to twice a month. It depends on the month and depends on the time of year, fall to spring. And what we teach is we teach the last 10 years worth of product. So you're going to get Indigo Next, NEO, with onboard filtration, without onboard filtration. The Cool Air line, both modular and under counter. We're also going to teach Flake and Nugget, what we like to affectionately refer to as Quadzilla, or the S3000, the last remaining production S model out there. And then we'll also cover some specialty under counters. That's usually done on Friday. So if you're looking to dig deeper into the bin of knowledge, get a little more information between classroom, instructor-led, and hands-on. There's a hands-on element to this school every single day. Please feel free to register for that class. That registration form will tell you everything you need to know about prerequisites, as well as the cost, what is and is not provided. We'd love to see you up here in Manitowoc. So, service limit number 1. We're going to talk about how to retrieve this service limit and what the definition of this service limit is. So we'll start there first. So the unit's shut down. It's locked out. That's what this is showing you here on the user interface. The machine is not running. The wrench light is lit solid. It's just sitting there. So how do we retrieve this service limit? Well, there's two ways to do it. You can either retrieve it from the user interface touchpad, or you could retrieve it from the board, but we're going to start with the touchpad. So press that power button, and then you'll see the light flash one time and go out. That'll let you know service limit number 1 is what shut this ice machine down. If it flashed twice, that'd be service limit 2. If it flashed 3 times, that would be service limit 3. But today we're talking about service limit number 1. So how do we figure this out from the board? You can go to the control board. The machine is locked out. You don't have to touch anything on this touchpad. Just look at that board. It's sitting there, not running, probably no ice in the bin. What you'll see is the safety one. That's what it's called out on the silk screen on the control board. We're referring to it as a service limit, but I want you to see what you'll see. It would say safety 1 on the board with that light lit solid. If the unit was empty and the damper was in the up position, you'd also see that bin switch light green, but we're really worried about the service limit here. So what is service limit number 1? Service limit number 1 is a long freeze shutdown. We've been doing service or safety limits, depending on the vantage and vintage of the machine, for years. Service limit number 1 is a long freeze. On NEO units with onboard filtration, NEO with onboard filtration, running on R290 refrigerant, should you have 3 consecutive 45-minute freeze cycles. That's the key there. The maximum freeze on the new NEO with onboard filtration is 45 minutes. If you have 3 of those, what's going to happen is we are going to save the memory of that service limit in the control board. The wrench light will flash, letting you know that a service limit has taken place while the ice machine continues to run. That's trying to get the end user or the tech in front of the ice machine's attention, letting you know, hey, I'm running, but something happened. Or what you would see if you were looking at the board is the safety 1 light flashing on and off in 1-second intervals. After 6 consecutive 45-minute free cycles, this machine's going to shut itself down and lock itself out. And you'll see what you saw previously. Wrench light lit on the user interface touchpad, and the safety 1 light would be lit solid on the control board, letting you know, hey, I'm done running until somebody turns me back on and tries to figure out why I'm shutting down. For previous versions of Neo, so Neo without onboard filtration, if you want to see what those are, because there are different time frames for certain versions of software, go to page 87 of the new Technician's Handbook, this year's, the 2025 version, part number 000018622. You can download that on our website at manitowocice.com. You can also download it from our Easy Parts web. Should you be in there looking for parts, there's also a section for Technician's Handbooks to download. All right, so we're going to talk about causes of service limit number 1. We're not just telling you what it is, we're going to tell you a little bit about what could cause things. And we're going to start with the water system. Now keep in mind, we talked about 3 service limits. I'm probably going to allude to a different service limit while we talk about the water system. So our sequence of operation is up there, just letting you know what's supposed to be energized when. It's a good idea to know what the ice machine is supposed to be doing, so that way you know, is everything okay? Are you troubleshooting the wrong thing? So the water inlet valve, we're going to talk about how a water inlet valve can cause a service limit number 1 long freeze. Keep in mind, a lack of water is not that reason. This ice machine has a service limit 3 or water loss safety, so a lack of water is not going to have this happen. So what are we looking for? How does the water inlet valve operate? During pre-chill and up to 2 minutes into your freeze cycle, we're going to utilize the ice thickness float switch to bring in water until we fill to the factory level. Now, I told you a lack of water does not cause this problem, but this little valve, it fills at about 1/3 of a gallon per minute. So what we sense on this ice machine, if you saw on the sequence of operations chart, as we consume water, we use it all up, and that's what initiates a harvest. But this is 1/3 of a gallon valve. So if this valve overfeeds for whatever reason, the water pressure is too high, which keep in mind, 80 psi is the maximum water pressure rated for this ice machine. If it's too high of pressure coming to the ice machine, or the water valve is not internally regulating to 1/3 of a gallon per minute, you will overfill the trough. We also utilize a water pump pause with a thermistor. So we do that to prevent slush. But this is independent of floats, so it's a 7-second shot of water. Well, if that water valve is feeding in 2/3 of a gallon a minute, well, that's going to lead to a big problem for you. If this valve overfeeds, the trough will be too full, and it will take more water to convert into ice. You may stay in freeze too long. This will be especially true in situations where, hey, maybe the water's too warm, and you have to keep pulling out more heat than you planned on. What about the water pump? So the water pump's job is to move water from the water trough over the evaporator and convert it over into ice. If that water pump is not running, we need to verify things like, do we have power to the water pump? Is the water pump flow path restricted? Those are the things you have to start looking at here. So how do we do that? If you go into 8 and 32, there with the black lead, and wire number 5, the pink wire with your red lead, and you see, hey, water pump relay's lit. Look at that. I've got 122.6 volts AC, and I'm not moving water. Well, one of 2 problems here. Either your water pump is pumping to a dead head because there's so much impacted inside that distribution hose, the water pump just can't move the water. Maybe it's getting voltage and nothing's turning. Dead motor. That will lead to a service limit number 1, long freeze. If you don't move water over the evaporator for 45 consecutive minutes, 6 consecutive times, well, you didn't make any ice. You're going to end up dealing with a couple of service limits, really, but this will lead to service limit 1. If you wanted to check directly at the board because you couldn't get to your water pump for whatever reason, you could also go into the 9-pin connector at wire number 5. It's going to be a pink wire. And on this unit, it would be wire number 56. So with the water pump, I've already kind of covered this, but let's be sure that everything is clean. Up there at the top right, you've got the distribution tube. If it's all caked up with calcium and water cannot cascade over the evaporator properly, that's going to lead to a service limit 1. What's going on with the water trough? Can we move water properly? The distribution hose there at the bottom right, is that all impacted? Ensure cleanliness is taken care of before you ever condemn any parts. The worst look for anybody is finding out, hey, I just put this new part in, it's still not doing the same thing. Hey, look, I pulled off the hose, it's full of calcium, it's full of lime, it's full of whatever's in your water. You clean that all out and now it's working. Well, hey, the old pump might have been working had you done that. We're not sure. Take care of preventative maintenance before ever jumping to corrective maintenance. What about the electrical system? Things in our electrical system can also lead to this. So we have float switches. This is a water sensing system. This ice machine senses water. It does not sense ice on the evaporator like other machines, whether we're talking about Indigo that uses an acoustical probe, or we're talking about the old S model that was a water sensing probe. This doesn't sense ice, it senses water. So we have 2 floats. The purpose of these floats, when they're up, it creates an open circuit to let us know that water is up to the level of the corresponding float. The one on the right is showing that it's up, and it would create an open circuit and the light on the control board would be lit green. If it's down, it creates a closed circuit and the light on the control board would be off. So here we are. This is the control board right now. The float is down, and this is going to be the harvest float switch. The float is down. As we said before, that creates a closed circuit, and with a closed circuit, the light should be off. The harvest float corresponds to the low-level float light on the control board, that top light in the middle there. It's still lit green and the float is down. If it stays that way the entire freeze cycle, even if we're out of water, you're not going to go into harvest. The harvest float's job is to tell you, I've gone open, which means I must have consumed all my water into ice, it's time to harvest. Boards can do one of 2 things, everybody. It can either do what it's programmed to do, that's one thing, or what an input device tells it to do in conjunction with its programming. This is an input device. It plugs into the board. The input has told the board, I'm still open. The board's not allowed to go to harvest until it sees closed. So how do we troubleshoot this switch? Remove the electrical panel to allow viewing of the board so you can see your lights. That way you know what's going on. You already saw it on the previous slide there. We must have that control box open because we saw our control board. At this point, again, when the ball is down, it's a closed circuit. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a jumper wire across the wires that track back to the control board. You're going to unplug the float from the harness and then put a jumper on both sides of those red wires there to create a closed circuit. Bypass your 6-minute lock-in freeze. By the way, we have a 6-minute lock-in freeze. We've been doing that for a long time. Turn the ice machine on. About 10 seconds into freeze, you should be going into harvest. If you do, that proves that the float is the issue. You took a input device out of the circuit, you bypassed it, and you told the harness to tell the board that it's closed. That must mean that it's time to go into harvest. But what if we still don't go into harvest? Just told you we got the float out of there, but we didn't get the harness out of there. What we would do is we would go straight to the control board and we will find what wires from the float go into the board, put a jumper there and tell the board exactly what we need to do. This one's a little bit hard to do. I would probably recommend viewing another video where one of our Ice Tech FAQs where we remove the bin. You can run the machine without the bin on, utilizing the test button. Go ahead and do all these things and force this machine to do what you need it to do where you have room, or work around with whatever you need to do. If you do this and the machine goes into harvest, where you jump directly at the Molex, the unit goes into harvest, well, your problem is in one of the two, the harness or the float. Unlike older undercounters, so I'm talking about the Q series, the B series undercounter, those high pressure cutout switches were tied in series with L1, the L1 wire going to the control board. So if that switch opened, you lost all power to your control board. That is not true for Neo with onboard filtration or the old Neo that doesn't have onboard filtration. The high pressure cutout switch only takes power away from the contactor. The way I like to explain it when I'm teaching is, think of a bridge. Switch is closed, bridge is down. Switch is open, bridge is up. Well, this is electricity, and we can't go jump a bridge. So if the switch is open, all that's going to happen is the contactor is going to pull out, and it's going to stay pulled out until that switch closes. And at that point, the contactor will snap back in, and it'll keep running. And at that point, if it happens again, it's going to keep going in an infinite loop until you hit 45 minutes and freeze. 45 minutes into the freeze, guess what? The board says that's enough. We've tried. It's been 45 minutes. We have not consumed the water. We're going to initiate a harvest. We do this 3 times. We're going to tell you that it happened by flashing the safety 1 light on the board and flashing the wrench. Happens 6 times in a row. Hey, we're locking down. Somebody's got to come and take a look at this, probably a professional. Here you're going to see a cutout of the air-cooled system. Things would be true with a water-cooled system as well, but that's not electrical. That would be water supplied to a condenser, and we're talking about electrical bits. So the fan cycle control is the left switch there in the middle. Its job is to close its contacts when pressure gets to a certain point, depending on the set point of that machine. You'll find that information in your technician's handbook. Close the contacts and run the fan motor. Continue to run the fan motor until we've rejected enough heat that our pressure comes down to the cutout point of that switch. Open the contacts and stop running the fan. Build up more heat again, close and run, and continue on a loop as we go. But let's say that didn't happen. You turn the machine on, contactor snaps in, compressor's running, keeps running, stops. Fan never kicked on. Well, we have 1 of 2 problems. Either we have a fan switch that's not calling for the fan, or we have a fan motor that cannot run. The way that I typically will troubleshoot that is I will pull the wires off of the fan cycle switch, assuming that I have verified with the high pressure switch right next to the fan cycle switch is open and causing our problems. You could be seeing something with a contactor that's having a problem, but you'd have to take voltage. Again, I do it without the bin, just so that way I had room to do my work. But easiest way to test this that I've found, turn the machine off, pull the wires off the fan cycle switch and jump them to each other. Turn the ice machine back on. You have now created a closed circuit for that. As soon as the contactor pulls in, that fan should run. If it's running, that'll tell you fan cycle switch failed because we took it out of the circuit and the fan did its job. If you jump that fan cycle control switch out and the fan still does not run, first thing I'd recommend, check your jump, let's be sure. But if it's a good jump and that fan still will not run, you've given it direct power once that contactor pulls in. You'd be looking at a fan motor problem. What about board issues? So we've got a bit here. You see a control board. This is a machine that's in freeze. It has not consumed any of the water. So both floats are still satisfied. The damper is up, so the bin switch light is lit. The compressor and the pump relay are on. Well, if you suspected that you might have an issue with your hot gas valve, let's say, hey, it's getting real steamy in there, fans aren't running, I've put gauges on the system, which we're not going to do today. I've put gauges on this system and my pressures do not make sense to me based on how my head pressure is supposed to be and how my suction pressure is supposed to be. Well, one thing that you could do is you could check with your meter at this red wire, number 6, on the 9-pin connector on the control board. That's the L1 to your harvest valve. And then again, 56, that's L2, going into the board. If you think your harvest valve is sticking electrically or mechanically, well, you could go take voltage. You could also take it at wire 6 and then those 2 blue wires go into the back directly at the valve. But sometimes it's easier just to pull the voltage out of the board. So you go 6 and 56, what do you read? If you've got a warm evaporator and pressures that don't make sense and you read 0, you read 4 volts, that valve is not getting power. That valve is stuck mechanically. But if you were getting 115 on a 115 unit or 208, 211, any of the normal voltages you see on a 208, 230 volt ice machine, if you were getting that and the harvest valve LED is not lit, well, you would have a stuck relay on the board at that point. But that's how you verify. What if the pump isn't running and it's an electrical problem? You could go pink and then white. 56, so 5 pink, 56 white. We're not moving any water. Do you have power to the pump? Go across number 5 pink and number 56 white. 115, we're not moving. Well, that's a mechanical problem with the pump or an internal problem with the pump. Or we're not moving water, but the pump LED's lit like you see on the screen there, and you're reading 0, well, that's a relay that will not close. Pull that board out and verify there's nothing on it causing an issue. Put it back in, try one more time. Don't see a lot of board problems, so I like to check twice. We're not going to go deep into this refrigeration bit, but let's say that you have verified everything in your sequence of operations works without a problem. You are moving good water, refrigeration is running, and you're not sure what's going on. We do have a symptom number 2 flowchart. It's a checklist more than a flowchart to troubleshoot your refrigeration system. You have verified cleanliness. You have verified water fill. You have verified water flow. You have verified the refrigeration system is running and you are just not making ice, or you are not making ice at a fast enough speed, which this ice machine should not take 45 minutes to make ice, especially if it's in a well-conditioned area. You go through this chart, you put X's, smiley faces, snowflakes, whatever mark you want to put there. You put them in each of those questions, and then you total it up at the bottom. Whichever one has the highest number at the bottom wins, or in its case loses, because that's what you need to fix. Go through that. Most of the time you can figure this out without even getting to the point of gauges. You time your first cycle, you figure out some things that are going on. You might not have to get to the gauge point. But if you've been watching this ice machine for more time than it's supposed to take, let's say your free cycle is supposed to be 15 minutes and you're at 25 and you don't have a lick of ice. Everybody, I would just turn that machine off at that point, get the gauges, put them on, turn the ice machine back on, and then go through this flow chart. If you answer every question accurately, you put your checks where they are, there is no way to get a tie. So we're not going to go through the full bit here. Also, again, to have easier access to that refrigeration system, you could run this test with the bin off in the test mode, utilizing the test button on the control board. I'd like to thank all of you for tuning in whenever you decided to tune in to Service Limit 1 on the Neo with onboard filtration. Please take this quiz. Give us the information, your name, your email. When the September Spotlight airs, we will then pull a name. And if you're that name, we got to have a way to contact you. If you don't give us the email, we're not going to know how to do that. So if you win, we'll reach out to you. Me, and you've seen Josh do other videos. It's either going to be me or Josh. We'll reach out to you saying, hey, look, you won the swag bag here. It's got a hat. It's got a tape measure, a snowflake bag, usually some goodies. We will draw one name for every 25 entrants we have between when this spotlight airs and when the next spotlight airs. So if we have 50, we'll draw 2. If we have 75, obviously we'll draw 3, and so on. Trying to teach about ice machines, not multiplication. And here is that link to the quiz that we were talking about. You can scan this here. This QR code will take you to the quiz. We also have the URL up there. I don't think any of you are going to type it, but it will be in the comments for the YouTube video once this goes live. You can click on that. It'll take you straight to the form. We house this quiz in Microsoft Forms. You answer the questions. You click submit. Josh and I will get a notification that it happened, and we will answer this up. So I'm just going to leave this here for a few seconds on the video for those of you who are trying.